There is a story in the Book of Kings that will leave you astounded by how cruel humans can be, and I honestly think that all mothers who hear this shocking biblical narrative will be as terrified as I was. This episode occurred in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 3, verses 16 to 27. Many people know or have heard of King Solomon and all his greatness and wisdom, but few truly know his real story. Let's go through it together. Before we get to that dreadful day of the two women and the baby, I need to tell the story of King Solomon and how his wisdom stood out. Solomon's rise to the throne of Israel was a story marked by intrigue, power struggles, and a touch of divine guidance. Solomon was the son of David, the king of Israel, and Bathsheba, the woman with whom David had committed adultery. Despite this, after David's death, Solomon was chosen as his successor. The succession was not a smooth transition. Adonijah, Solomon's older brother, decided to proclaim himself king after David's death, without his father's or the prophet Nathan's consent. He had the support of Joab, the army commander, and Abiathar, the high priest. On the other hand, Nathan, the prophet, and Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, were determined to ensure that David's wishes were fulfilled. Nathan convinced Bathsheba to speak to King David to ensure that the throne would be passed to Solomon. As previously promised, Bathsheba presented the case to David, reminding him of his promise to her that Solomon would be his successor. With Nathan's intervention and Bathsheba's persuasion, David publicly announced Solomon as his heir and successor. After David's death, Solomon assumed the throne and consolidated his power, ensuring the execution of his opponents and solidifying his authority over the kingdom. But look, King Solomon did not acquire wisdom simply by becoming king. I will tell you this story in a very calm and easy-to-understand way. So, King Solomon had just become king and was very concerned about being a good king and ruling with excellence. One day, he had a dream, and God appeared in that dream and said, "Solomon, what do you want me to give you?" And Solomon, instead of asking for things like money or power, he asked for wisdom, because he wanted to be wise to govern his people well. God was pleased with Solomon's request and said that he would not only be very wise, but also have everything that other people usually want, like money and fame. Then, when Solomon woke up, he realized that it was true, and that he had gained super intelligence. Solomon began to rule his kingdom using all this wisdom. He built a beautiful temple in Jerusalem, made some cool agreements with other countries, and even wrote some sayings and poems that everyone loves to this day. In short, Solomon became a super wise king, all because he asked for it from God in a dream. But consolidating this wisdom was not an easy task, and one of the most difficult cases that King Solomon had to judge is that of the two women and the baby. This is a very striking story about the wisdom of King Solomon. Then, one day, two women came to Solomon with a baby, each claiming to be the true mother of the child. One of them said that during the night the other woman rolled over her own son, accidentally suffocating him. And then, while she slept, the other switched the babies, claiming the living baby as hers. The other woman denied this and said the baby was hers. Then Solomon, knowing that he could not tell who was telling the truth just by their words, had a well-expected idea. In 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 24, King Solomon said, "Bring me a sword." And they brought a sword before the king, and the king said, "Divide the living child in two, and give half to one and half to another." Sounds crazy, right? He suggested that they cut the baby in half and give half to each. Then one of the women, trembling with fear, says to the king, "My lord, give her the baby, but let him live." But the other said, "Neither yours nor mine. Divide him." Immediately King Solomon knew who the true mother was. and ordered that they not kill the baby and that they give him alive to her. This story is a classic example of how King Solomon's wisdom was recognized and celebrated, and how he used his intelligence to do justice. King Solomon left a great legacy for subsequent Christians. The legacy of wisdom left by King Solomon for Christians is significant and influential. Solomon is considered one of the most prominent examples of wisdom in the Bible, mainly due to his story recorded in the books of 1 Kings and 2 Chronicles. He left many examples for us on how we become wise. Now stay with the main examples of the great King Solomon. Number 1, the pursuit of wisdom. Solomon decided to seek God first. That was his great differential. He understood that only God can indeed grant what we need. Number 2, Solomon was a scholar of the scriptures. He understood that the word of God is a source of wisdom. In third place, he put into practice everything he learned from God, and he left everything written through the teachings recorded in Proverbs. Solomon is traditionally considered the author of most of the Proverbs in the Bible. These Proverbs contain a wealth of practical wisdom for daily life, addressing a wide range of topics, from interpersonal relations to financial management. Christians often turn to Proverbs for guidance and advice in their lives. I leave you here and wish everyone a hard pursuit of wisdom and faith. Until next time.